All right, this is the Machinewise Rota version 1. I figured I'd do this as a video instead of typing out my thoughts just because it felt easier. So here we go. This pen is full titanium, uses a Parker refill. And while we're doing this, this is made by a company called Machinewise, which is really famous for their knives, and they're produced in Phoenix, Arizona, pretty close by. So here's a Monteverde, whatever it is, P42. It just fits there. Pretty cool pen. I was able to check out the prototype version of this, or number 00, that was engraved under the clip. Looks like the production ones are clean, but the one that I got to see at their factory tour was number 00 or number 0 right here. Where are you gonna start? Let's see. So I mean, the milling itself is fantastic. Like inside the flutes, all these micro milling lines, wild. And then I like how that continues into this clip, and especially right there where the clip kind of bends and starts to form into this milled shape right here. It's great that it continues through there and also onto the actual mechanism itself. So very cohesive in terms of its milling. So despite being a pretty, quote, basic pen, they did a good job with those details there. And their logo milling up here, also quite crispy. I guess for the people that are kind of just learning about this pen, a lot of the craze comes from the fact that it was a super early run, I think like 2 years ago, and then there was about 50 made. I know someone said 5. I'm pretty sure I've seen more than 5 of these out in the wild, but under 50 or right at 50. And then there was a second drop of these planned at some pen or blade show that I think they just couldn't get the clips done, so it never ended up happening. So what's out is out, and then now it's the V2. I got to try the V2 as well during the tour. It was cool. I just wasn't the biggest fan of how much the design changed up here. Like the mechanism very much looked like such a separate part of the pen versus how integrated this looks or some other pens. The way the action actually works on this is it's a half click. So one-handed with that, but if you want to actually see the mech turn, it's a half rotation up here to get the refill out, and then the half to retract it. So half turn and then another half. There's a couple questions that someone asked on the Discord that I wanted to answer. Pretty good fidget. I think it's even more satisfying when you get a full rotation. If I just stop talking, you can kind of hear the clicks. Half click, fill out, refill back in. I think the tip wheel is pretty good on this. Yeah, it really is. I know it's like a metric that everyone tries to judge in person. I guess you can kind of see like the most slight movement right there, but it really is solid, especially when you're writing. What else is there to say? Oh, I guess we can do the weights. So the weight of this thing is, oh, zeroed out first. There we go. It is 30.9 grams or 1.08 ounces. I think grams is the best comparison though. So this is 30.9. In comparison, this is a Fellholter tickler, similar configuration as this pen with the milled clip. Obviously this one's a little bit thicker, but also full titanium. This one is 33.1, and then the much loved confounded machine, great Mac, 27.7. So a little bit heavier than a CM, slightly under Fellholter tickler. So that's the weight comparison on this. What other cool things are there to share? I'm just reading some of the questions that people had asked. So one of the things that I mentioned is that I think it'd be really satisfying if this mech was a full rotation to actuate, just because I think it'd be easier one-handed than having to pinch. If you could kind of just like flick this and activate it all the way. I think another cool thing that they could have done on like a version 2 that someone also had mentioned was if you could like lock it in place and then rotate the opposite direction to retract the mech, or sorry, retract the refill. I think that's a pretty neat idea, honestly. I know that Pocket Priorities actually posted a video of a pen that was similar to these, and it was bidirectional. And I think it used some sort of magnets in the mech versus just more of like a ball and groove style. It is really smooth. I think this is a really solid pen. I think like if they continued to produce it for the long term, that it would have continued to do well for a lot of buyers, just being such a unique mech. I don't think that there's anything that directly compares to this. I mean, there's the standard clicks, bolt actions, and then I guess like a kind of side click mechs like an Otmog or Nottingham, but nothing that quite compares to how this moves. I have had this for about like 30 hours now, and it's been the only one I've been writing out with at my desk for the past day. So actual ergonomics of it, super nice. I think any straight flute pattern I think is always really good. I have quite a few from Fellholter that I really enjoy writing with, so this is the same. I don't tend to write with pens down here, so I don't mind it as much. I kind of am around here, so the flutes work well on my hands. I think another thing that could have been improved over time was if this tip was shortened and then this fluting went even longer, although I don't know how that'd be with the dimensions of the pen. I think this, like, I don't even know what this is, like almost like a third and 2/3 of just the barrel being milled versus not milled. Maybe like 60 to 40%, but whatever. I think that could have been improved. Otherwise, I really don't have a lot of negative feedback about this pen. I think the mech is just super nice. I think there's a lot of hype around them. I mean, I've seen them trade anywhere between 800 up to like 1.5K, and I think those prices are pretty stable being where they are just because there's not many of them around. I'm not sure that it warrants $1,000. I also can't really say that almost any titanium pen would warrant $1,000 to me. But that's also just because at that point I'd be preferring Zerk or other exotic metals, and if Zerk isn't for you and titanium really is your go-to metal, then this is probably one of, if not the best, not the best, but one of the best titanium machine pens out there. Like, I do think it's a really solid pen. This is probably the longest I've ever had to write with one and use one. The mech is smooth, and then as you get used to it, you can definitely do the half actuations a lot faster. So it is like a fun fidget. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Another really cool thing that they could have done if they stuck with this mech was once you kind of like actuated it with that half click, somehow if this essentially like around this logo was a circle, and that's what's actually functioned as the stop pin on that mech, and then this part spun. I know it's pretty similar to a Fellholter, but similar so I guess a good way to compare it is if where the Machinewise logo is where the screw of this tickler is, and then half click for the rota. It's like half click for the rota, and then this is like a half click somehow locked into place, and then it became a spinner. I think that could have been really neat. I know this isn't a design they stuck with for very long in general, so I understand that they didn't have time to really do any of those other things. I think that's about it. This is my first video, first take, and I'm not redoing this or editing anything because I take off for a flight in 5 hours. But I wanted to at least squeeze this in before I don't have it again. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Rota. Overall, really nice writing experience, super smooth, holds a refill well. really nice ergonomics in hand. I don't have a caliper, so I can't tell the exact dimension, like what its diameters are, but here it is next to some pretty well-loved pens. We can move the felt filter out just because it is a lot thicker and compare it to a Q3D. So these are all pretty similar in terms of barrel depth, and obviously the fluted milling takes some diameter of the pen off, but yeah. I think that's it. Overall, really solid pen. I mean, I would be happy to own one of these. I think at the current markets of them, I'm not as keen on owning one, but if one happened to come across my swimming journeys one day, I'd definitely take a shot at it. But yeah, that's the Rota. I don't think the hype is undeserved, just because it is such a unique mech, and I think developing something like this had to be such a challenge. There's not many unique mechs out there in general, and they did a really good job on the rest of the construction of the pen. So whether the hype is worth it is totally up to you, but at least you can get a good angle and view of what the pen looks like. And I think another cool small detail would have been if they did the machine lines right there that kind of carried over from here, but that's just nitpicking at this point. Overall, really fantastic detail work. I love how minimal the branding is just at the top, where you technically don't even really see it when you're just looking at the pen from the side or writing. Okay, 11 minutes. I think that's enough content for the day. But I guess if you guys wanted to hear my thoughts, that's what I have to say about it. Thanks. Enjoy, you guys. Have a good night.